Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So one of the strange things with these classic album inspections is when you miss a key album. And one such album I missed was Argus by Wishbone Ash, which was 50 years old. A couple of years ago, it's an album I really like, and I wanted to look at Wishbone Ash because they're a key sort of player in the development of hard rock and metal. Not that they're very metal, well, they're not metally, they're certainly a little bit hard rocky. So by way of this, I decided to review their fifth release, There's the Rub, which came out in November 50 years ago. And that would be a way to talk about this album, which is really good, but kind of have a little look at the albums before. And of course, that's Argus. So the band, formed 69, got a deal pretty quickly, or maybe 68. And their debut album was kind of mostly kind of bluesy hard rock. And had those twin lead guitar sounds. So obviously the Allman Brothers had twin lead, I think, some of the southern rock bands, but Wishbone Ash, the first British band to really make use of that two guitar thing. And that's something that other bands, particularly Judas Priest, would copy Thin Lizzy. And of course Iron Maiden were very influenced, Steve Harris, by Wishbone Ash. So the second album, Pilgrimage, was kind of more bringing in the folky acoustic elements. I think the first album's got a track called Phoenix, which is an epic 10-minute track, and that would be stretched out live. What's interesting about Wishbone Ash, aside from the twin leads, is they're quite happy to play separate guitar parts, and that's something that other bands taking two guitars didn't really explore as much. Certainly Priest, Maiden, they just tend to play a lot of unison riffing. Scorpions didn't, and later on Rat in the heavy genre taking their cue from the Scorpions. So I wonder if Scorpions might have been influenced by Wishbone Ash a bit with those separate parts. So the third album, the first two albums lead to Argus, which is their masterwork. It gets Album of the Year, Enemy, it goes gold in the UK. And that's really a blend of the folky elements of Pilgrimage and the bluesy rock elements of the first album. But it has a loose conceptual nature to it. It's got kind of pastoral influence in the lyrics and suggests sort of medieval warring England, Roundheads and so on. That's not medieval though, is it? But that kind of thing, You could watch Witchfinder General or something about, Battle of Hastings, I don't know, Arthur and the Saxons, and I listen to Argus, and you get that vibe. It's really good. It's got really good production. The guitars are excellent by Andy Powell and Ted Turner. Two guitarists with distinctive styles. Andy Powell with a kind of more bite to his sound. The Gibson Flying V. Ted Turner using a lap steel. The kind of more smoother bluesy thing. I actually saw them play live on a tour called Night of the Guitars, which was a kind of RS Records project back in 1988, and it was good. So Argus is hugely successful. After that, they did a Wishbone Four album, which tries to stretch out their sound. And fans like the album, but it kind of got away a little bit from what made Argus so popular, successful. It made number 12 in the charts, but it's fair to say they never quite had the success after that. They never really recovered from how popular Argus was. But like any album that's popular, it gave them a career. They had cool Hypnosis cover for that with a Darth guy on the hill with a Darth Vader helmet. So what happens at the end of the Wishbone Four? Ted Turner leaves. He goes travelling and kind of finds spirituality, and they get Laurie Wisefield in for the There's the Rub album. So this is a key album in their lexicon for that reason. It made number 16, so it's continuing sort of the level of success of the Wishbone Four album. It's got a cool album cover of a cricket trousers and a guy in cricket trousers and his ball. It's a Hypnosis album cover. The title actually comes from Hamlet's speech, "To sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub." So they kind of taken it literally. What's interesting about this, it's recorded in America, Criteria Recording Studios, Miami, Florida. This might be the studios that the Bee Gees used, don't quote me. But Bill Scheismick, is that how I pronounce it? He's a really famous producer from the early 70s, did the James Gang, did the Eagles as well. So this has got a kind of, it's a little more of a transatlanticness into the sound. I think Wishbone Four had that. But it's got a smooth production. But what's interesting in this album, it's not making any kind of massive attempt to be commercial. It's only got 6 tracks on it. It's 38 minutes long, so they've still got those progressive rock elements. I mean, that's what they've got: blues rock, progressive rock, folk rock. You know, I did say before, I mean, some of this stuff wouldn't be out of place, Fairport Convention, and so on. So Homes with Silver Shoes. This is interesting. You know, Martin Turner's voice is interesting on this, and it's got an interesting track. Na 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 na. The kind of melody on. I suppose you wouldn't call it a chorus, but it's like a section. Quite cool guitar, so you can hear a bit of this kind of West Coast rock influence on it. It's 6 minutes 35. It's a really cool track, and then you got Don't Come Back, which is probably the second most commercial track on the album. What comes out on this is it's the sort of layering of the sound, the backing vocals of Andy Powell, who harmonises and sometimes sings lead vocals with Martin Turner, the interplay of the guitars, and Steve Upton's drums. Steve Upton is that kind of drummer where he's got that more jazz, less bombastic style. Once John Bonham gets popular, every rock drummer, kind of starting Andy Parker and UFO and beyond, goes for that kind of 4 on the floor, hard hitting thing. Whereas drummers before that, Mitch Mitchell, Ginger Baker, whatever, there's more subtlety in that, and Steve Upton's got that, and that gives the band, a different sound. Then you've got like the album's standout cut. I keep saying Persephone. Sorry, this is 7 minutes long. This has kind of got a kind of slightly chopped reggae guitar part, sort of predating what a band like the Scorpions would do with that. But it's very atmospheric. It's got a really kind of wistful vocal melody that's kind of got a cool kind of phasing effect on. Really cool vocal harmonies. Extended solo at the end. It kind of stretches out. This is a really unique track. You can't say it doesn't sound like anyone else. Wishbone Ash have got their sound. They've got their own DNA that they do. But they've got the DNA of their sound is unique, I think, and this really comes together on this track. Then you've got the next track, Hometown, which is probably the closest thing to a single. It's got a little bit, it's kind of about going home, so they're kind of singing about going back to their hometown, which will probably be, I don't know, something Devon or something. But it's got a bit of a transatlantic, sort of slightly country rock vibe. I really like it. You can imagine this getting played on radio in the US, whether it did. I'm just looking, US Billboard 88 this album made. This is probably one of the highest charting albums. So you just said the album before was Live Dates, so that was like a popular live album for them. And prior to that, Argus, where did that make the US charts? I'm just looking here, 169. So got to look at this way this is laid out is quite annoying. Wishbone Four, Billboard 44. So actually Wishbone 4 was their most popular album. So that would suggest to me that they went to the US to try and get more commercial success, but unfortunately this album didn't didn't chart any higher than Wishbone 4. So it kind of levelled off for them. Sorry about me I'm just looking at the notes computer screen. Then you've got Lady J. So this track lyrically, it says here the lyrics of Lady J is based on the Dartmoor folk legend about Kitty J. Don't know who Kitty J was, but again that's kind of touching basically on the Argus thing, period sort of lyrics. Kitty J. Jay's grave, supposedly the last resting place of a suicide victim who's thought to have died in the late 18th century, has become a well-known landmark on Dartmoor. So, and is subject to folklore and several ghost stories. So, that's getting into that pastoral folk rock lyric type thing. So, again, that's kind of going, like I said before, just going back to the Argus thing. Really nice track again. Great vocal harmonies. Really good guitar interplay on that track. I've just got to. Pardon me, I've got a note here, I think, about that. I'm just going to check that. I have to put my glasses on. Yeah, it is on Lady J. They kind of do a call and response thing, the guitarists. And again, it's that thing I was saying before, like a lot of two guitar bands don't really take advantages of separate guitar parts quite often. They do harmony guitar parts, which are different parts but unison, but with this they're doing a call and response, or sometimes one's playing one thing and the one's playing the other, and that's really interesting. Then the album finishes with FUBB. This is 9 minutes 22 instrumental, so again, you know, you've gone to America presumably to kind of get a smoother, more commercial sound, and this is a weird instrumental. It's got quite kind of outside sounding guitar parts at times on the opening, really distorted bass on this. I don't know if he's using a Rickenbacker, Martin Turner, but his bass is very good on Martin Turner's bass. He's got that kind of movement, that interesting movement that 70s bass players have, that Gary Fane has, that Geezer has. So that's really cool. FUBB stands up, fucked up beyond belief. Sometimes people, Americans, use the word FUBAR, fucked up beyond all recognition. So that's what it stands out. It's interesting how this instrumental develops. I'm not sure it all works. The kind of weird bits are a bit weird, but once it gets the harmonies going, the interplay, it's really good. So on this album, yeah, I mean, the fact it's got 6 tracks kind of works in its favour. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's weird that the Meccan album has got less tracks than Argus, which I think has 7. You know, it's I think the first album's got 6. So it's an interesting album, and I would say, I mean, the Wishbone Four album, you know, it's decent. Those first 5 albums, I haven't yet listened to the album after this Locked In, but I understand it's not very good. And they actually released an album 7 months later, New England, which they were over in Connecticut for tax reasons. That's got some really good stuff. That's got a really heavy track on it, which is probably the closest to get New England, yeah. I forget what it's called, but it's probably, actually the New England album's only 37 minutes, so they've obviously fairly, you know, put together some shorter tracks to get it out, as it were. But that's got this really hard rocking track on it. After that, they do Front Page News. Title track of that's really good. Again, it's got a kind of smoother, more soft rock sound, and then same with No Smoke Without Fire, but some good stuff on that. And then finally, just testing, just let me check here, which is the end of the Martin Turner era. So Martin Turner's the original bassist vocalist, and he does their first 10 albums, and then he leaves. Then they get John Wetton, and it's weird, John Wetton was kind of so he's in Uriah Heep, and then Trevor Bolder was actually in Wishbone Ash before going back to Uriah Heep. Quite weird. But this is probably the last album. It's got some good album. I remember this when it was out because it was in the year I was getting into rock music, metal, and just testing on the Flying V on the front, and with that it kind of put Wishbone Ash in that lexicon of rock bands. But the chart place for this was 41. Billboard 179. They didn't get what I call that new wob and bounce Wishbone Ash. That's when the bands, you know, people getting into new wob and metal's making a comeback. So a rock band like Wishbone Ash are influential on that. Could get, of course, you know, a bit of traction, but probably didn't really. But like I say, they're not very heavy Wishbone Ash. So that's my little sort of trawl through there. But there's the Rub album. Whether Wishbone fans would consider it a classic, I'm not sure, but it is a good record. It's an interesting hard rock record of the time, and it's worth checking out, as are those previous Wishbone Ash albums. So remember, share and subscribe. I'll see you again soon for another classic album inspection, and thanks very much.